Shodan. Let's open up a Shodan here. And Shodan is a tool that was developed by, what's his first name? Matherly. I don't remember what's his first name. His last name is Matherly. It's out of San Diego. He developed this 10 or 15 years ago. This is a tool that scans the world and pulls the banners off every IP address in the world. Okay, that's a big task, right? Think about that. There are 4.3 billion IP addresses. There's 65,000, 6,536 ports per IP address. That's a lot of banners to grab. And so Matherly does this with Shodan, and there's a number of other tools that have followed on to Shodan that do things similar. But what's critical about this one is, one, it's relatively simple to use, okay? And two, at least in the basics, it's free. And for the basic Shodan use, it's free. So here's Shodan, right? Remember, Shodan is going ahead and pulling the banner, okay? The banner. So a banner is essentially a page where the web server tells the world who they are, what they are, right? And so that's what Shodan does. Now, there are other tools that do things differently, but this is what Shodan does. It goes around and pulls the banner on all of these IP addresses and ports, and then takes that information and puts it into a database and then indexes it for us to search. Now, we can see this is just the Explore page. Okay, you have to get much from it, you have to create an account and log in. Now, they actually have paid accounts as well, where you get even more useful information. But you can see that I can go here and so, for instance, Ethereum miners. I can go ahead and click here. And these are going to show me all the Ethereum miners. Right? There's 8,400 of them. The cryptocurrency miners. Right?
It's amazing what people connect to the internet.
Yes.
Unreal.
And so we have all the Ethereum miners out there. And you can see that most of them, looks like a vast number, are in Germany, right? And then US and Finland. If we were to, look for, over here, industrial control systems, which is one of the areas that I specialize in, it's industrial control systems. Industrial control systems are really varied. Okay, you can see there's different manufacturers of industrial control systems, and the most widely used, but far from the majority, is Modbus. This is port 502. I can click on this, and I can see there's almost 500,000 of these systems around the world. Right, and so these shows me every system. In this case, it defaults to port 502. Now, that's not necessarily going to be Modbus, but it shows me port 502. And if you really want to make certain that it is Modbus, you can look for, let's go a little further down here. We get a lot of 502s that probably are not Modbus. But really the important point here is that you can use Shodan to find just about anything you want, okay? The interesting things, as you'll see, is that you can also look for keywords such as conpot. Pot is the most widely used honeypot in industrial control systems. Oh, I didn't find any. Interesting. They must have taken them all down. There was just a few online just recently. Okay. And then we could go and say, oh, we all see those that are in China. We can just pull all those up in China. So it's a great tool for finding. First of all, if you're a hacker, it's a great tool for finding potentially vulnerable systems that have particular characteristics, right? If you're somebody in cybersecurity, one of the things that you want to do is to check to see what Shodan has on your systems, right?
Exactly.
So if you're showing all this information to the world, right, you want to know that. So, that's one of the things that you want to do if you're working in defense, is to make sure that you're not giving away more information than you should in Shodan and some of these other search engines. Now, just as another example, we know that, for instance, port 3306 is used for MySQL. So we can go and look for those. And here we go. This shows me 4.6 million. That's a lot of systems using MySQL. So these are, if we're looking for, and look at this end of life product here too. So this is kind of important, right? Because that means it's no longer supported by the manufacturer developer in and updating it and giving it security updates. So this is mean they're going to be particularly vulnerable to attack. You can see the versions here, right? Is version 5.650, 5.742, right? These are old versions of MySQL, which makes them vulnerable. Yeah, and so that's the kind of thing that we can do here. Something that people always mention to me is that, well, nobody ever runs those old operating systems. Nobody ever runs those old operating systems on anymore. Nobody runs Windows XP, right? Okay.
That's the most common YouTube comment, right?
Exactly. And so one of the ways we can actually search by operating system. So we go OS, right? And here I can see some of my previous searches, including those that are in Russia. Here we use OS Windows 7. Let's go to Windows 7, right? No, nobody runs Windows 7 anymore, right? Oh, I don't know why I'm getting these results here. Let's go back to just Windows 7. Okay, let's see if we can get that. There we go. All right, so my search with SMB was returning nothing, but I got 42,000, systems. 6,500 of them are in Russia, 5,600 in China, 34. Even in the US, you got 3,400. Now, this is not telling me how many systems are running Windows 7. This tells me specifically how many Windows 7 systems are connected to the internet, right?
Exactly.
This is a 15-year-old operating system, and people are still using it to serve, right, on the internet. Right? You can actually see that it pulls up even the login screen on these systems. So there's far more than this 42,000 because most of those older systems are not connected to the internet. These are just the ones connected to the internet. Of course, let's just go back another step and let's go XP. All right, see how many of those are. 5,777. So for all of you out there who say nobody runs Windows 7, nobody runs Windows XP, I beg to differ, right? Yep. And one of the things that a lot of people who are new to this field, one of the things as human beings that we do is that we think the rest of the world does the same things that we do, right? Exactly. We extrapolate from what we're doing to the other 7 billion people on the planet. Yep. And that's dangerous to do, right? Because not everybody, or a common comment I'll get was, well, none of my friends run Windows XP. Or, well, yeah, that's true. I'm sure that's true that none of your friends run Windows XP. But there's at least 5,777 people who are running Windows XP and have it connected to the internet, right? Now, these XP systems are really vulnerable to all types of attacks, right? But people are still using them. So be careful in trying to extrapolate your own personal experience, your own world, to everything else in the world. That's just a general rule of life, right? Yeah, you need to. Not everybody is doing things the same way you do it. And we might ask the question, why are these people still running XP? And there's a large number of reasons that they still are, but they're really putting themselves at risk that by continuing to attach these systems to the internet. But this is just a good example of what Shodan can do for us in terms of scanning the globe. One caveat, one warning about using Shodan is the data is usually a few weeks old, right? Because he can't scan the whole world every day. It's just he's not possible. Sometimes you'll find a system that appears here, and then when you go and actually try, say, running an Nmap scan on it, you'll find that it's not there anymore, or certain ports have been closed. So just kind of a warning. Now, we wanted to see, say, port, we can just combine searches, right, 3306. And this will show us all the systems that have, and there's none of them, Let's go 1433, which is the SQL Server. All right, let's see if we wouldn't expect necessarily. There we go. So this is the port for the SQL Server database on Windows. So, and these are all the systems. Those are all end-of-life OS, end-of-life product. So this particular system in France is running a operating system that is end-of-life OS and end-of-life product, both, right? You can see these are all very, very vulnerable systems. Okay, and most of them are in Korea, it looks like. Not most of them, but the largest number are in Korea. So that's probably the first tool that you need to know for passive reconnaissance. I think it's the easiest to learn. Okay, you can basically search by country. So if I wanted to go by country as well, I could go country and say, and all those that are in Spain. I think Spain is ES, is that right? Yeah. And there's all of them. So I got 40. I've narrowed it down to 46 systems that are running Windows XP, port 440. So it's both Windows XP and SQL Server in Spain. I've gotten really specific here, right? And I've narrowed it down to 46 systems on the planet that meet that criteria.